House prices are booming again, and ultimately this is a part of a 40-year trend. How people are surprised that it's happening again surprises me. It's part of a long-term trend, and these things are going to keep happening. Where they push to is really scary. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. This is all opinion, so feel free to disagree with me. I'm not trying to fear anyone or anything like that, even though you turn on the news here in Melbourne and it sounds like there's a lot of fear going around. So maybe the fear is there for a proper reason, and that's how people are actually feeling in this day and age. There's a lot of people, especially here on YouTube, that I'm going to trigger right now because they go, oh, it's the immigrants. We've got to get rid of all the immigrants and that's going to solve the problem. I'm not disagreeing that immigrants are a part of the problem. I guess I'm disagreeing that if you just got rid of immigration, that it's going to solve the housing crisis, because it's not. There's a deeper problem at play here, and the immigration is a result of that. I'm not saying it's the right government policy. If I've triggered you, I probably actually have the same opinion as you. What I'm saying is that you're triggering yourself, and it's got little to do with the actual issue. I put out a video about this, funnily enough, recently, although the algorithm didn't like it that much. So if I'm repeating myself, sorry. Basically, what's happened is we've had a large generation, the baby boomers, and they cop a rough whack, deservedly or not, I don't know. The truth is that the baby boomers were the largest generation. And what's happened since that generation has started retiring and going out of the workforce is we've had to pay for this aging population, but the next generations that have followed have actually been smaller generations. And if you want to look at the reason why, or you want to think about why our productivity is so low, maybe we should consider the fact that we've just been borrowing more and relying off borrowed money rather than relying on us to be productive. And this is really important because if you look at successive governments' approaches to the problems that we've had, I mean, aging population has been a problem for a long time. We've known about this since I was a little kid in high school. If you look at their responses, including immigration, then you'll see how they've got it wrong. I'm not saying that I have a replacement solution, by the way. My intention, and what I've been saying on this channel for a while, is that we shouldn't be sitting around necessarily and just waiting for the government to fix everything for us, because that's really rare if you look at old civilizations over all time. Actually, that doesn't really happen. So our expectations, I guess, are out of line with, let's say, the reality, if you want to put it harshly. I want to dig into government policy, and I want to talk about the house prices booming again, because there's 4 factors I've got here which basically are all government policy apart from one. So let's talk about those. Immigration, I've already mentioned it, so let's get that out of the way first. Immigration was Australia's solution post-World War II. We embarked on a mass immigration campaign, and I guess the difference between then and now is the productivity. Back then we built stuff. A great example was the Snowy Hydro scheme. People got put to work building this country, but if you look at the sort of nation building jobs we're doing today, where are they? In Melbourne, I don't know how many years to build this road, and that was after we canned the plan to build the other road. Something like 15 years. It's absolutely crazy to think that this is going on in this day and age when our adversaries, China for example, could probably build the same road within 12 or 18 months. Anyway, immigration, it's not helping now for the housing market, and I don't think it's going to help for our society in the next 10 years. Time's going to tell on that, but that's where my mind's at now on immigration. But clearly with regards to the housing policy, it's not good. We already had a shortfall that the federal government were trying to solve for, which was 1.2 million homes by 2030. At this point, it still sounds pretty crazy. I don't know when that was announced, maybe 18 months to 2 years ago. It's really weird. Like, why are they bringing in all of these people into this country when we can't house everyone? There is a housing shortfall. One of the things I get in all of my videos, they seem to be on TikTok actually, is, oh, there's 1 million houses that people aren't living in. Show me the data on that, because I really get pissed off when people just want to make a claim and can never show the data, and they never want to show the data because the data isn't there. Where it comes from, there were 1 million houses empty in the last census, so that doesn't necessarily mean there's 1 million houses not lived in. Believe it or not, 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago now, people's dream in Melbourne was, yeah, I'll retire in my 50s and I'll have a holiday house in Phillip Island, outside of Melbourne, and maybe I'll work a little bit longer, but I'll be able to afford that, and then I'll have a second holiday home to live in. And it's really interesting to see how far we've come in those times where you'll be lucky to afford one home paid off by the time you retire in old age versus how they thought back then. We have got too many people coming in. That's putting more stress on demand, and we don't even have the supply to keep up with everyone. Here's one I got wrong, and I got wrong really quick on this one, and this is the change to the 5% government scheme. I put a video out not that long ago now, weeks ago now, saying, well, we don't know how it's going to impact the market at the moment. For those wanting to buy $1 million properties now, they're going to need, if it's in Melbourne, 110 grand to get in, because you've got to factor in stamp duty. I stand corrected now. In the last month, it's early November now, there has been an inundation of people wanting to get on this scheme. I want to note that the scheme was already there before October 1. It was just there in a more restricted form. So we can see the data now. I can feel it. I can tell you banks' turnaround times, CBA, NAB, Great Southern Bank, they're the main ones I'm using for this. Their turnaround times are blowing out. Clearly, this is pushing up the market, and this has only been 1 month since it's come out. It's going to have an impact on the market heading into Christmas and maybe even beyond. So I got that one wrong pretty early, but I've seen enough data now to say, well, now I can make up my mind. I want to come back here, guys. So the Australian governments, successive governments, not Labor or Liberal, don't give me any of this Liberal this or Labor that in the comments, because I'm honestly tired of it. Both governments are responsible for where we are today. The first thing I think we need to do is take responsibility for where we are today and stop fighting with each other before anything can get changed. But what I want to point out is government help, first home buyer schemes have been inundated in this society, in this economy since 2000. They were actually around before then, but really since 2000 they've amped right up. Immigration, it doubled, I think around 2004, and then it doubled again in the COVID times, or post-COVID times, I should say. But what I want to say is these are government policies. These are the decisions that we're making. It just didn't happen like that before. Speaking of government policies, let's talk about unemployment. Unemployment is still low despite the fact that it's been nudging up the last year or so. What can I say? Public sector jobs, government paid for jobs, are employing all of the people. You cannot have house prices crashing when the government is going about employing everyone and everyone gets to keep their jobs. Now, I've had people commenting about me going, oh, well, why are you complaining about people keeping their jobs? I get it. On an individual level, that is great. On a national societal level, that is not going to end well. And I believe that's not going to end well. You'll know if I'm right or wrong if we just wait. And I think that's where we're headed. So unemployment has been kept drastically low. Interest rates, technically not government policy because it's done by the central bank, and the central bank is supposed to be autonomous from the politicians. Let's just say that. However, interest rates have been kept, in my opinion, too low based on the fiscal policy. I don't actually blame the Reserve Bank of Australia because the government are printing money. They're employing record amounts of people in the market. And I think since the end of COVID, so that's like 3 years now, they've employed like 80% of everyone. It's a crazy figure. The Reserve Bank are going to find it hard to reduce interest rates because it's going to cause massive booms. And actually what they've done to try and give a bit of a kick to the economy is reduce rates. And they've only reduced, I don't think it's even 1% from where they were at a high. And we're seeing the kick that it's giving property. Anyway, let's move on because I'm rambling. The reason I do all this content is because I just think people are going to get left behind. We've got long-term data showing that it's harder for people to buy assets, right? So all of this inflation, I just saw the average wage is now 107,000 in Australia. Doesn't matter because when it went up 7% from 100,000, property prices gone up 20%. So what actually has to happen is people have to get in more debt to pay for those properties, and then they're going to take longer to pay that debt off. It's really bad for young people. Now, let's talk about the different young people. So there's young people that have to get in the debt. So they have to get in the debt, and that's more debt than the generation before them had, and then the generation before them had. They've got a whole different sort of paradigm to live with, I guess you could say. There's the young people who are yet to buy a house, and they're sitting there quite rightly raging about it. It's not their fault. By the way, if you do want to buy a house, I have a guide of how to buy a house for 2026. It doesn't sound really good because I'm talking about how much of a problem debt is. But the reality is people have to have a home to live in, and that's why this issue is such a problem. Anyway, links are below to figure out how to do that. There's like an hour video explaining how you can do that in 2026 and take advantage of all those government schemes which are helping push the market higher. There is another talked about part of young people which I think is going to be really bad, or should I say it's going to have bad results for our society, and it's going to make our society a much worse place to live. And I'm talking about really young people. Before people start thinking about buying a house, before they start thinking about buying a family, what are people that are 15 to 25-year-old? Like, what are they thinking? Because I'm pretty sure for a lot of them, owning a home is not going to be on their radar. They're going to look at property prices, $1 million in Brisbane and Sydney, 900 in Melbourne or whatever it is now. And they're just going to be like, no, why would I be a debt slave for my whole life? That sounds really silly. The problem with that is, what incentive do these people have to plug into the economy? Why not just do drugs? Why not commit crimes? Because this society, this economy is not giving me any benefit. In fact, my alternative now is to have to go and rent, and the landlord's going to own me. I'm really concerned about, well, what are people going to do? Like, what is that generation going to do? That they've got little traditional skills. The only saving grace is that they may have the new skills for the new industry. I don't know. I do know that people need a roof over their head. They need assets to survive. If we want to go to year 9 psychology and look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, security is the second bottom bit on the hierarchy. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, the idea is that you needed enough on the bottom layer to then get the next layer. So if security is right down there and our kids aren't getting that, we're not giving them safe minds. I guess what I'm struggling to see is how the future is going to look for our society if we can't provide for security for these people. How is our society going to look? How are people going to be incentivized to act? And if they're not incentivized to act to plug into the economy, what are they going to be incentivized to do? And for me personally, that is a scary prospect. I want to move on and comment about, it feels like there are people cheering this on, like it's good. It's like they're saying, oh no, oh it's so shocking, oh I can't turn my head away. Some part of me thinks it's sadistic. I don't know what it is, but I really don't like it. And I don't like it because of the societal breakdown that I just talked about. What are these 15 to 25-year-olds going to be like in 10 or 15 years? You know what the other thing I don't like about this is, and this has been an issue with me for a while, with property, it creates the illusion that everyone is going to get rich from this. I don't know, maybe it's because I think differently. And I'm not saying you can't get rich from this. What I'm saying is that some people can get rich from it and other people cannot. I see these videos all the time. I see these thumbnails basically spruiking the market from people that have self-interest in it. For example, I'm a mortgage broker, house prices are booming, so you need to get in now, spruiking investment properties, all of that sort of stuff. I just see self-interest everywhere. And I guess there's two sorts of people that are self-interested and people that are actually interested in the world we live in. We find lots of value in the world we live in our communities, in our societies, in having a safe world. And there's these other people that, and I don't want to feel like it's too judgy, but it feels like I just want to get rich and I don't really care about anything else. At the core of it, it's people that think that money is the only thing of value. What is it? You can't touch it. You can't feel it. Why is it valuable if the world your kids have to go into, they've got to go out in Melbourne with kids with machetes and stuff everywhere? Why is money more valuable if you have to work all the time? Like, we're all getting in. When I say all the younger people who have to buy their first homes are going into 30-year mortgages at the age of 37. That's mum and dad working. That's less time with their kids and their family. Isn't there value in spending time with your kids? This is what I really don't like about it. And this is why I think there's a higher chance of more societal breakdown. I guess at the end of it, I'm just going to say what I've always been saying. You need to take responsibility for your future. You need to take the reins back from whoever you gave it to, because what's happening with the property market is going to keep going until something breaks properly. And by the time everyone agrees it's time to pick up the pieces and rebuild everything better, I fear it will be too late. I think that at an individual level, you focus on yourself, focus on your family, focus on how you can move forward over a period of months and years, you will get the compound benefits from that. And I feel like everyone's just holding on. I feel like a lot of people have just been holding on. But at the same time, post-pandemic, that was 3 years ago. We've got to stop holding on. We've got to move on, and we've got to take responsibility, and we're going to look after ourselves. So I guess that was my little rant for the day. Tell us what you think. By no means am I anti-property. I am pro doing the right thing for your family, protecting the wealth, gaining the wealth. I just think there are potential risks involved that people seem to be blind to these days. Anyway, leave your comments below. Cheers.